Okay, I made it back here in the back. Now, this is the part, my mom, where her brothers are buried, her older brother and her younger brother. And like I said, the church had burnt down. So when I came here asking to see records, because, there should be records of where everybody is and who's there. And, I found out that they had burnt and there was no copies of anything. So that's why I had to go kind of door to door talking to people and trying to find people still alive that could tell me these things, which is how I met Henry Brazelton, because he knew a lot about our family, and he remembered. He was here. He came to the funeral of my mother's brother, Wadey, and he met me out here. He was just such a good guy. Really wanting to help put some closure on things for my mother, really. But this lady, I might have to come out here and clean all this up myself. This lady her name was Sarah Robertson. Well, she, in her kindness, is the one that offered the plots to bury my Uncle Wadey. And Wadey was my mother's oldest brother, and I believe I've told y'all that, he was beat pretty bad the day he actually died from my grandfather. And he had taken my mother to a school dance, and he didn't feel good, so he started walking back, and he had one of his friends walk my mom home, and he made it home. My mom made it right behind him because she couldn't go nowhere without him anyhow, and she had to run up the road to get a doctor because her mother was yelling for her to do so she did. And she was running back to the house, and she said she remembered seeing the moon and how full it was, and then she realized that her hands were swinging, because she was running so fast. And she said she just stopped suddenly from running and looked at her hand, and she said, I realized that Wadey wasn't holding my hand because he had been her protector, from the day she was born. And she realized also that he was gone. She could feel it. So on the day of the funeral, my mom said here's what she told me. She said, I remember back at the back, a little tree that had been planted that, I knew a new little tree that had been planted. And she said, I just remember standing there staring at that little tree while they were burying her brother, the closest person in her life, a person she talked about and admired until the day she died. Well, that's the tree, because so I'm out here, and I'm, I knew I was kind of in the right area. I knew it was near Miss Robertson, and I looked there, and there's that tree, and if you look, there is no more in here to go by. So I knew it had to be right here. And then I remember my mother told me she was standing directly looking at that little tree. So she'd have been back here, somewhere back here looking at that tree. And so then when I brought the caretaker, which was the son of the older caretaker, who knew quite a bit, he wasn't a spring chicken. He wasn't he's the one that brought the rod, and you can tell, at least they can tell from the way the grass is where a grave is, which is nice. Over the years, I guess some things have happened out here, and they had to haul dirt in, and so anything that was marking, my uncle's grave is gone. Like, there should be a big rock here, and my guess is it's buried underneath this sod, this beautiful grass, and it wasn't here the last time I was here at all. So, I guess, what I'm gonna have to honor them by, I've got to get them a headstone. I guess I'm gonna have to go back and talk to the church, the pastor, to get permission You know, I don't know how to legally prove they're in there because without the records, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what to do to legally, I wouldn't want to put a headstone of somebody else's name on, with that spirit there. So that's kind of been my dilemma for a few years is how do I honestly, you know, I don't know. I know the story, but unfortunately, the records are gone because they were in there that burnt to the ground and took it all with them. And just sometimes I wonder, but my grandfather was evil. There was two churches, and that were close to my grandmother's family home. Well, it was right across the street actually from where my grandmother's home place was. It burnt mysteriously. This one burnt mysteriously. Rumor had it was him because he he was just a moonshining drunk. He couldn't profit nothing because he's too busy drinking it. But I'm sorry. I am looking and I'm pretty, see, right? You see the cut in the grass. I believe my uncle, there's Sarah, and it's diagonal, which is what I was told. So I believe his grave is going to start somewhere right in here, and right up in here, and go down. And then the little brother, who was 4 years old, is like down. I know what my mother told me. He was down down here, and there's a smaller line here, for like a much smaller grave. It's hard. This grass is so thick; it is so hard to see it. But I do see the grave line right there. I'm gonna have to come back up here and see if I can get a little help. But that marker right there is Sarah, and I was told to walk, at an angle that would lead me to Wadey, and then another slight angle that would lead to Laverne, who was 4. And they both were right here at this tree, which was just a baby. And now it's not a baby anymore. So I'm going to have to do that. I have to do that. Now it's going to bother me. But first I need to complete. Now I can work on both of them at the same time. Look how big this has grown. My mother said it was just a little tiny twig. And she didn't think it was going to make it, But she told me how she just stood here that day in total disbelief, shock. And, so I read it. I read the death certificate of my uncle. I had pulled it out of Jackson County courthouse files. And it had his death listed as undetermined. And it had requested an autopsy because he was beat pretty bad. And so I kept digging to see if I could find where they had done the autopsy, and the results would have been, I thought they would be in there. But, I never did find it. So what I found was undetermined. And, maybe I didn't dig enough, I don't know. But I'm going back, and I'm going to dig again. Because the things that I had, I lost in the fire in the house. So I'll have to do it all over again. And I got to do that because there's a few other things I got to pull out of that courthouse. I found little baby Laverne's, the 4-year-old, and it said that he had passed away from diphtheria. But my mother had told me the day, he was very sick, little 4-year-old, and my grandmother was trying to get him ready to bring him in to see the doctor. And his little shoe, they couldn't find his little shoe, little 4-year-old shoe. And my grandfather went in a rage and just, I don't think my grandfather knew how to whip. He beat that baby. And there's pictures. I think I may have them. I'm not sure. I'll check. There's pictures of that sweet little baby in an open casket with bruises on his little body. it just tore, broke my heart. This is an evil man. And these two have been unmarked for a long time. And these are my mom's brothers, so, and one, it's so sad. But I'm gonna see if I can. I can't promise nothing because, these kind of promises sometimes can be hard to keep. But I thought it was odd that when I walked out here, let me show y'all something. I walked out here and look, right here is where they are. And it's got these beautiful leaves, like a trail for me. And I thought that was pretty neat because when I was walking up to them, I said, well, look in there. They're showing me where they're at. Maybe they're ready to be marked up. They want their name. I think it's sad that they are lost. And when I'm gone, they really, truly will be lost. It's somewhere up there. I can't do it right now, but I know there's a big rock underneath the grass at the head of Wading. I know because I found it a few times, and I know they didn't move it unless they bulldozed it, because a couple of heavy-duty women had rolled it there so that Wading wouldn't get lost. Well, I'm going to stop this one. We got one more journey to take. We're going to go to my grandmother's and take a little visit there and tell a little bit about that and see, give you a little more background of, I don't know if it's going to help or hurt, but either way, maybe further on down the line, you're kind of going to see where that evilness kind of reared its ugly head. And, God, I swear, a lot of us fight it all the time. But some, I think one or two might have gave up on that fight to not be bad and evil. Okay, I'll be back.